Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to In the Life of Anna. This is Anna speaking. And I had promised you guys a video on Turo and everything that I have experienced running and managing a Turo car. I wanted to make this video because I have a few people that have reached out to me, probably about 4 in 1 week, which was quite enough for me to say, okay, maybe I should make a video because I wanted to send everybody to the same source. And so I want to take you guys through my experience with Turo, the cons, the pros, things to look out for, what to have, what not to have, what to do, what not to do. So if you're interested in starting a Turo, if you don't know where to start, if you don't know about the risks and you have just so many different questions, this is the video for you to watch. And hopefully this can be the video that you guys take into consideration when you're actually going out there and buying a Turo car or using your own as a Turo car. So let's go. So first things first, I want to start with kind of just separating, the pros and the cons. I think it's really important to understand right from the bat if this is something that you want to get into and, if this is something that you're going to enjoy and if the pros outweigh the cons for you because it doesn't for everybody. And so I wanted to start there. This is going to be that first part where we really dive deep into, is it really worth it? The first thing that I would say is, and I'm going to start with the cons here because I like to end on a positive note. So we're going to do the pros after. But with the cons, with a Turo car, it requires time and scheduling. It's not super time consuming, but if you're going to be doing something like Turo, you definitely need a little bit more flexibility, or you need to adjust your Turo schedule to your current schedule. So if you work a 9 to 5 and you have somebody renting the car, I don't know, at 11 in the morning or 10 in the morning or something like that, you're going to have to adjust the times that somebody can pick up the car from you so that you can have it ready and all set for them to just pick up. There's a few ways you can do this. So the first one is just adjusting your work schedule or adjusting the times on Turo where people can pick up. The thing that I would say about that is, if you're really picky with the times that people can pick up your car, you're not going to get that many bookings because people need the flexibility, especially if they're coming in through the airport or, they have an emergency or something like that and they need a car. So that's like not the route that I would take. The other thing that I would do is, if you have work in the morning and they're picking it up at 9, 10 a.m. and you go into work at 8, I'd probably just set up the car the night before to make sure that everything is ready to go and then just drop it off where they're going to be picking it up and having it there ready for them to pick up at the time that they're going to be picking it up. So that way you don't have to miss work. You don't have to really adjust your schedule too much. It's just, at nighttime, make sure that it's all set and then put it where it's going to be picked up. And then that way they can just get it. Okay, the next con is some renters can actually be pretty inconsiderate. And if you've ever, if you have Airbnbs, for example, or a rental property, or you even rented an Airbnb before, you kind of know what it's like to be a renter. And you kind of know when you're messy and you kind of know when you're not. Some people don't really care and they can be really inconsiderate. So when you get the car back, sometimes you never really know what's it gonna look like. Sometimes it's a good surprise and they've cleaned it. Sometimes there's not much wear and tear in there, and other times it's messy and just absolutely disgusting. Food everywhere, or just smells disgusting. There's dirt. There's all kinds of stuff. It also depends on the kind of car you get. For example, I have a Jeep Wrangler, and that's a mountain car. So people like to take it out to the mountains, and then when they come back, the car is full of dirt everywhere. It's been taken through the mud and it's just super messy, which is to be expected for the type of car that I put in there. But if you're having, a Mercedes or a BMW or something that's a little bit nicer, the story might be a little bit different. All right, the next con. So even though this is supposed to be kind of like a side hustle thing, or you can even scale it up to something a lot bigger, Turo as a platform does take quite a bit of your profits. It also depends on the insurance plan that you get. So it's really important to have that into consideration. Just know that you're not going to get absolutely everything. So for example, today the car went out until Sunday. That's what, like 4 days? And because today's Thursday, don't quote me on my math. Pretty much, I should have been making around, I think, like $400 to $500, and I'm only getting like 250, maybe 280 from this trip. So they do take quite a bit, and I mean, it's a given. I give them quite a bit of money for insurance because I want to make sure that this car is protected. And that's another topic we'll be talking about today is insurance. But you know, you kind of want to plan around that with your numbers and just play around and see how much you want to get at the minimum every single month. So let's talk a little bit about the platform too. And this is one of the cons is Turo support is not the best. It does take quite a while to get a hold of somebody that is actually helpful. You know, you can be on the phone for a while, or you know, you're sending out emails and requests, chats, whatever. You know how platforms are, and so you know it's not the easiest. So when you're dealing with something that's like really important and really urgent, it can get quite stressful. But if you're a person that can handle, you know, stress and being under pressure pretty easily, and you do it frequently, then this is something that's it's not even going to bother you. So yeah. All right, this is a really, really big one because when you have a car out there, is actually a lot riskier than having an Airbnb or any other of these things because it's out there, right? So whenever you send a car out, just remember you may never get it back. And that's something to always keep in mind because if you get attached to these cars, you might get heartbroken, you know. And when I bought my Jeep, I was actually never really a Jeep fan. I mean, they were cool, but like I never really like, you know, I was like, okay. And so I went after a car that was very Colorado car, you know, people were gonna really enjoy, take it to the mountains, take it skiing, whatever. And so I decided, why not a Jeep? There was a demand on the market for that. And when I got it, I fell in love with it. And that was something that I didn't really expect. And unfortunately, I do love that car. And it's my baby, but you know I do understand that I may never come back, and I love it, but I'm detached. So just make sure you stay detached. One more thing with you know with that topic is if you're using your personal car, that's one risk that you might be taking that you may not be in a position to take. So if you're using your personal car and that car never comes back, you're out of a car. So just be mindful of that. Another thing to consider, it's the fact that these cars rack up mileage pretty quickly. So I bought mine, I think it was 46,000 miles. It was used, definitely not new. But within 3 months, it was already at like 60 something thousand. And I was like, whoa, damn, you know? So if this is your personal car, you might be worried a little bit about that. But if you bought a car specifically for Turo, that's what it's for. You can select a mileage specifically that you want to get up to, and then retire the car and get another one. Or you might just want to keep it going, and then you know it's really good for you. You know that the paychecks are juicy and whatever. So it's really up to you. But it was something that I noticed at the beginning and that I feel should be mentioned. Now, because cars do rack up mileage pretty quickly, those servicing appointments are going to be more frequent. I did get a servicing plan with the dealership that I bought the car through, but if you don't have a servicing plan or anything like that, that's a cost that you're going to have to put aside from your profits, obviously. That's pretty much how you run the business, right? It's your overhead. And so you're going to have to pay attention to the servicings and the costs, and you might want to find a good deal or get a plan. You know, you can just plan around that too. The last thing I want to mention for the cons is if you're using your personal car, you're not going to have a car, you know, unless you select a period of time that you want it booked and then a period of time you want your car. You know, you're just gonna have to be a little bit flexible. You know, either get an Uber or get your partner to drive you around. That's what I do. And you know, that's just because that Jeep, I so what happened was, let me tell you a story. I had my car leased and I turned in the lease. When I turned in the lease, I decided to just get a Turo car and compromise, you know, just sacrifice a little bit because I really liked the numbers and the projections of what Turo could make me. So if that's something that would be a good fit for you, then that's, you know, definitely consider it. All right, so now let's talk about some pros because I'm dying for some positivity here. So the first one is the additional income. Additional income is actually pretty good, even though, you know, Turo takes quite a bit of money. You still make good money, right? Like, I think January was my best month, and I made $1,500 off of Turo, and that was pretty awesome. I really like that paycheck. So additional income is pretty good. So Turo is a really good entry level business, I would say, from a personal standpoint, because it's really easy to manage. You have, I mean, besides getting a car, you know, if you are getting a car, if you know, if you are getting a car, it can be quite a bit the overhead, but if not, then you don't have that much overhead. And all you have to do is get little accessories and get it cleaned and all that stuff. So um, it's really not that hard to manage. It's really good for you to start learning how to do the accounting and how to manage your time and how to do all these different things. So I would recommend Turo as an entry level business. Next one, following the entry level business, it's easily scalable. So if you know what you're doing and you want to go ahead and get another car because this first car is actually giving really good income and you've had no problems with it and you've learned from the experience, then scaling to 2, 3, 4 or more cars is actually really not that complicated, especially if you're really good at the credit card and business credit leverage game. So it shouldn't be really too hard to start. I would say it's even better than ATM machine business and vending machine business because it's a little bit more higher level. It gives really good returns and it's really fun. So here's how I do it. I got the car, right, and I have $600 a month payments, 640, I believe. And so what I do is I really enjoy that car, so I like to use it at least 1 week out of the month. And if I can have it rented for 3 weeks, it definitely pays for itself and then some. So it's a really cool hack to have if you want to have a nicer car and you want to upgrade a little bit, but you want to make sure you can afford the payments and you're not at that level yet, you want to risk it a little bit. It's really good to be able to have the car pay for itself and then you can enjoy it once a month, a week out of the month. You can plan a trip or you can just enjoy it while you're commuting or, go to parties or whatever you like to do. So that's a really good way to do it. Okay, so now let's get into the details, right? There's a few things to consider when you're thinking about getting a Turo car and putting it on the platform. Are you going to run it as a business, as a side hustle, whatever it is? These are all things that are really important to take into consideration. The first thing you got to do is you got to do your research. You can go on the Turo platform. They have a page dedicated to finding what is the best car for your market, what those cars are priced out at, and what the demand is. So if you're a little bit confused, I would definitely recommend going into their page and looking at what the market is saying for the state that you're in and the city that you're in. And also you can go on YouTube, you can go on Instagram, you can go on different pages where people talk about their experience with Turo and what the market looks like. All right, the next thing, and this one comes from experience because it's something that I really wish I had stuck to and not just let the excitement get the best of me. But definitely, when you buy a car, you want to make sure that that payment stays below 500 is the numbers that I've found is the sweet spot is 500 and below because if you have a really high payment, that car is not going to profit you anything. It's just going to be at a point where it's just paying for itself. And if you're doing that, to have fun with it and be able to enjoy the car for, at least a week, a month, then it's going to take you the whole month to be able to cover the car payment. You're still going to be coming out of pocket and you're not going to be able to profit anything. If you're doing it as a business, definitely a bad idea to have a car payment higher than what your numbers say you should be at to be able to make that profit. So that's something to look into because the first few months, I would say maybe the first 5 months of me doing Turo, it was kind of hard to see how I was barely breaking even and I was making a little bit of a profit, but not so much where I was excited about it. So I decided to give it a whole year and see, and I was able to kind of figure it out. But I wish I hadn't struggled with that at the beginning, but you live and you learn. Now, it's important to know that the average trip with a car lasts 3 to 5 days, and that's about $300 to $450 a month or per trip. That's what I mean. It's per trip. And if you get longer bookings, it happens, but it's rare. I actually had one last month. It lasted 3 weeks with the same renter. And that was really cool. I made some really good money from it. It was about $1,200, maybe 14. But usually those trips are going to be 3 to 5 days. So you want to make sure that you're getting them booked back to back, or you want your prices to match what you're trying to make every single month. Now, this is one that a lot of people struggle with at the beginning, and it's learning how to price the car. Even though Turo does have kind of like an automatic pricing that they suggest based on your market, it's also really important for you to know your market and know what you should be pricing your cars at. That way, you're not going to be losing money and you're not going to be pricing them too high to where they're not getting rented because the demand just isn't there. So, always make sure that you know exactly how to price your car and you can play with it, right? You don't have to be super strict and you don't have to be scared about it either. You can play with the numbers and see what works. Obviously, some are going to do better than others, but it's really good to learn how to do that. So, when you list a car on Turo, it gives you the option to offer different add-ons, kind of like prepaid gas, or you can offer a cooler or camping gear or something like that depending on your market. So you can offer those add-ons and increase the experience and kind of just allow for that experience to be better for your guests and reflect on the reviews, because really good reviews are going to be really good for you. They're going to take you to that super host status, and it's just going to be an overall better experience for you as well. And this is what Turo really is about. It's kind of like Airbnb. Renting a car is really straightforward. A car is a car is a car is a car, but it's the experience that you're able to provide your guests and your renters with that you are actually going to see the benefit. You list a car on Turo, you have the option to add different add-ons and charge for those as well. So it's a really good way to make money additionally, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But when you have add-ons, you can have like camping gear or a cooler, depends on your area and where you're at and what's popular. But what I suggest doing is you can offer those add-ons and you don't have to go and buy all the equipment. You can actually buy it as it's requested. So that's what I did. I offered child seats and all kinds of different things, a cooler. I offered bike racks, and nobody really asked for those until later on. I did get somebody ask for a bike rack, so I went and bought one. I had somebody ask for a child safety seat, and so I went and bought one right before the trip. And you can actually see those videos on my Instagram, which I'm gonna link right here. And then it increases the experience for the renter and your guest, because when you rent a car, it's pretty straightforward, right? A car is a car is a car. But the experience that you're able to provide, it's really what's going to get you those really good reviews, and you're going to be able to get to that super host status a lot quicker, because as people see your reviews, then you're able to rent it even more and just faster. So it's really cool. Here's one that I think is actually pretty important. So sometimes I don't have the time to meet with the guest when I'm handing off the car. And that means that I have to leave it somewhere to be picked up. You usually have a very specific set location for pickup, and they select if they want to do that or if they want to do airport pickup. So when I have the car picked up at a location, specifically it's one near my house, and I always park it at a bank parking lot. And the reason being is because banks have security and security cameras. So if there's anything that could ever happen to your car, it's going to be safe knowing that you can actually reach to the bank or reach out to the bank and pull that footage and see what happened and possibly get, an insurance claim filed, etc., etc., etc. When you get a booking, you want to make sure that you're responding as quickly as possible to every question, every message that they send, because that does affect your response time. And people look at that when they're booking a Turo. They always want to make sure that the people that they're renting from are really responsive, and they're going to make sure that they have a good trip. So you want to keep your response time under an hour. And then that way people can see that you're actually pretty aware and responsive, and they'll want to book with you. So keep that in mind. Let's talk about electric cars. We don't like those. We don't. Personally, that's my opinion. We don't like electric cars for different reasons. I've been on the renter's end of electric cars, and I want to say that was a very annoying experience, because when you return a car, you have to return it with fuel all the way up, right? You have to have it filled up. And with an electric car, if you don't have the right charging station, it's going to take hours for that to charge. And when I rented one, we rented a Tesla in Atlanta, and it was a miserable experience because we were running around Atlanta trying to find a good charging station that could take the car and charge it up before we left for the airport and dropped off the car. and it just didn't work out how it was supposed to. We actually messaged the host saying like, hey, this is just not working out, we're gonna turn it in as it is, and whatever. So it might also be an inconvenience for you if you're renting a car that is electric and they're not returning it at full battery or whatever you call it with electric cars. I don't know, I'm not an electric car fan, to be quite honest, but it's not the best experience, and it can also really depend on your market. If you're in a really hot environment like Arizona, or you're in the really, really cold weather, your battery life is gonna suck. And so, is it worth it? To me personally, I don't think so. Here's a really, really important one. Do not enlist your car, or try really hard to not enlist your car. What happens is sometimes you have issues, you have to fix the car for a really long time. It takes months to get it fixed because of a car part or whatever. Or you get a situation like what happened to me. I had a typo in my license plate, and Turo didn't catch that until a lot later, and they unlisted my car, and they notified me a couple days later saying, hey, we noticed this error, and it happened after the Turo inspection that I had to do. It's probably, I think it's a quarterly inspection. And after the inspection, they noticed the typo, and they unlisted the car, right? I tried to handle it. Excuse me. I handled it as quickly as possible. I fixed the issue. I sent in all the forms literally the same day. And a month later, after following up and calling Turo, and this goes back to their customer service, I still got no response for my car to be relisted on the platform, and it was incredibly annoying. When I finally got it done, I noticed that when the car is unlisted, it drops to the bottom of the search list when people are looking for cars. And so the same traffic that I was getting where my car was completely booked out for months was not the same, because it's not at the top of the list anymore. So if you can avoid that car being unlisted, do it. Do not allow that car to be unlisted if you don't want your profits and your traffic to just really tank. When people ask me questions about Turo, one of their biggest questions is insurance. So let's talk about insurance for a little bit. You're going to have two types of insurance. You're going to have your personal insurance, which is the one that you're going to already have if you have a car, or you're going to get when you buy one. And then you're going to have your Turo insurance. That's the second one. When you rent out a car, your renter is going to use the Turo insurance in case anything were to happen. And you still have to have both insurance policy cards in your car. So what I do so that people don't see where I live is I just cross out my address on my personal insurance card. I just make a copy, put it in the car, cross out the address and other personal information. And then I always specify in the instructions that if anything were to happen, if there's an accident, they have to use the Turo insurance card. Because if they were to use yours, your premiums and your insurance is just going to skyrocket, and we don't want that to happen. So always make sure to let them know that they have to use the Turo insurance. All right, we're having technical difficulties with the microphone, so we're eliminating that for today, and you're just going to have to hear me as it is. So the last thing I want to mention with insurance is you don't want to communicate with your personal insurance company that you're doing Turo, because they don't relate. You already have Turo insurance. You have nothing to say to your personal insurance company. You're protected on both ends, so don't commingle. Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. When it comes to making the experience better for yourself and for your guests, there's a few little tools that I always keep handy, and they make everything better. So let's go and talk about those. The first one is the tracker. I have a car tracker through this company called Bouncie, and I'm going to link it below, because what you do is you order the tracker through them, and it costs $8 a month to keep the membership for you to track your car. So once it arrives, you plug it into your car, and then you download the app, and through the app you can track the speed, the location, the engine, battery, the gas, and all of that stuff. So it's really, really useful, and I honestly love it for peace of mind, for, insurance or liability reasons, whatever. It's just safety, you know what I mean? I like to keep it there. You should always, always, always have a tracker on your car. This is non-negotiable, and again, it's only $8 a month, so definitely get that. Next, I like to keep a few cleaning items with me every time I am gonna turn in a car for a trip. Just because if I notice something that I like cleaned, then I want to be able to clean it. Also, if you're picking up the car and it's just really dirty and you want to be able to drive it home decently, then I like to keep those. It's always, microfiber towels, Clorox wipes, stuff like that to disinfect. And honestly, it's not really that much, so you should be able to carry those in a little purse or in a backpack or something that you like to carry with you. The next one, and I swear by this one because it saved my life so many times, car seat covers. You want to get yourself some really decent car seat covers. They're usually between $80 to $200 depending on which ones you get. They could go higher, but why would you do that? I got these faux leather covers and they come available for many different car makes and models. What has saved my life is the fact that I don't have to clean the upholstery as often as I would have to if I didn't have them. And since this is a car that people take to the mountains, it's kind of like a utility car in a way. It does get pretty dirty, dusty, a lot of food, a lot of trash, and so I like to keep it as clean as possible and not have to do that much work every single time. Plus, cleaning upholstery can get quite expensive, so make sure you get those car seat covers because you're gonna need them. Let's talk accessories. I only have a couple accessories that I like to add in the car just to make their experience better, meaning the renters as well as mine. The first one is a little phone holder. So if you have a car like mine, I have a Jeep where the phone doesn't really have a spot that's comfortable if you want to look at directions and your maps and set your music. And when you're picking up your phone and putting it back down, that increases the risk for accidents. And so I provided that little phone holder and it just suction cups onto the windshields. And then that way they can just place their phone there. It's easy to look at. You're looking at the road pretty much. So you reduce that risk of accidents. And I love that thing when I'm driving too. Okay, the holy grail. The holy grail of any rental. It could be a boat, it could be a bus, it could be a car, it could be a house. An Ozone machine. This little box machine costs about $65 on Amazon, and I'm also going to link it below if I'm able to find it again. But this little machine will eliminate any odors from your car without you having to mask it with Febreze or take it to, a detailer. It's amazing for smoke. If somebody's smoking in your car, I never allow smoking, or if people have pets and it has like really strong dog odor or something like that. Strong food odors as well, stinky feet. Anything that might get in there, mildew if the car got wet. That happened to me because I had the doors off the Jeep, and so it had really strong mildew smell, and I was able to remove it with the Ozone machine. So that's something that I really swear by. If you have any type of rental where smells can accumulate, an Ozone machine is going to be your best friend. And then lastly is a lockbox. So I have a lockbox that goes on the window of the car to the outside. My car does not have remote start, so this is something that I find really useful in order to be able to kind of schedule myself around the drop-offs and the pickups. So if I'm not able to meet with the renter face-to-face, I will hang the little lockbox and I will put the key inside, put the code on, lock it, and then give them the code. Same thing when I pick it up, they just put it in there and I put the code in, get the key, and then I'm able to take the car home with me. The last thing I want to talk about is the different ways that you can make additional money on every trip with Turo. So there's a few ways that you can do this. The first one is through add-ons. Add-ons is one of my favorite ones because it also provides a lot of value to the renter. It provides a better experience, a funner time with whatever they decide to do. Here in Colorado, a lot of people like to go camping or hiking or skiing, and it's a very outdoorsy type of environment. So I like to provide camping gear, chairs, a cooler, bike racks, child safety seats, and it's really cool for them to be able to ask for these things and for me to provide them. Now, here's the thing. You don't want to go ahead and buy all of these things that you think people are going to want. What I did and has worked for me great is I wait for somebody to request it. So if somebody says, hey, I would also like to add the bike rack, then I will go and buy a bike rack and install it before the trip. And so that way I'm not wasting money that isn't really going to get used because I don't know what people are going to want exactly. So yeah. Okay, the next one is drop off and airport fees. So Colorado, the airport, DIA, is actually in the middle of nowhere. And that trip is about an hour from where I live. So that's an hour there and an hour back, plus the cost of Uber if my partner can't pick me up. And so I like to value my time, so I charge $100 for that trip. And I also charge $100 if I'm dropping the car off anywhere that's not a specific set location that I have set near my house, which only takes me like 5 minutes to get there, so I don't charge anything for that. But if somebody were to request a specific location, I always charge also $100. So this is a business channel for the most part, I would say, and here we like to follow the rules of supply and demand. So we always want to make sure that you're pricing your vehicles higher during the holidays, of course. So when people book during the holidays, and if you've ever traveled during the holidays, you know that your pricing is going to be a lot higher. It's just a default setting. We all understand the terms and condition of this agreement. Don't be afraid to price your Turo higher. You're not doing a disservice to anybody. It is just the rules of supply and demand. It is the holiday season. You have permission to go ahead and price your car higher within reason. You know, you're not going to go price a $70 a day car at $300, right? You want to make it reasonable and what your market is demanding, but you can definitely go ahead and charge some more money. The last one is you want to allow for people to do same-day bookings or one-day bookings. And of course, this only works if it works with your schedule, because if you need a lot of time ahead to know when you have a booking to be able to prep it, then it might not work for you. But for example, today I had a last-minute booking. He booked at 10 a.m. for a 4:30 p.m. pickup, and so I had the morning time to go and clean the car and get it ready for the renter to pick it up. That's my flexibility, so I'm not sure how it would work for you, but definitely explore it, because that flexibility reflects on the Turo platform, and then your listing gets put higher because you have more flexibility. Placed higher, not put higher. That sounded weird. It's always a good idea to be really flexible, and people really like that. So highly recommend. Make sure that you're having fun. If you're doing anything in life and you're not having fun, I don't think it's worth it. And I think this is a really fun business as long as you make it fun for yourself. Let me give you an example. I wouldn't go all the way above and beyond for my renters. Sometimes I do, but sometimes I regret it. So when I booked my Jeep last, not this one, the last one, the renter requested the doors to be taken off. And I said, yeah, no worries. We can take the doors off for you. I mostly agreed because I thought it'd be really fun. And I'd never done it myself. And I wanted to learn how to do it. I wanted to experience that. And so we did it. And I learned two things. One, it's easy, but also not that easy. Two, I will never do that again. So it was a really hot day. Taking those doors off was incredibly just like draining and exhausting. Putting them back on was draining and exhausting. Before we got to put the doors back on, it rained. So the car got really wet. There was really strong mildew smell in there. It was just really inconvenient. It is still drying to this day. And that happened last week. And so those are things that I would say, like, if it's just too much trouble to provide a specific experience, don't make it difficult for yourself. Don't make it a bad experience for yourself. Just go ahead and have some fun, do the best that you can, and just provide a good like customer service experience, and people are really going to appreciate that. So like I said, just try to have fun and, you know, try to make it so that this is something that you want to expand on. And, you know, if you're not growing, you're moving backwards. So we want to make sure that this is a good experience for everybody and that this is something that can influence us to do bigger things. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video provides a lot of value and guidance when it comes the time to pick your Turo car and choose if you want to do Turo or not. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. You can also reach me on Instagram. And, you know, overall, this is super fun for me to do. I love to provide value for you guys, and I love to have you guys with me. This is in the life of Anna, when you guys get to come and observe all the chaos I'm creating and the trouble I'm getting into and just having fun with life. It's really, really exciting, and I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to tap into the next ones. Don't forget to check out the new podcast that we have. It's called Rogue and Unscripted. It's just raw. It's actually life, not so much about business all the time, but just so you guys can get to see what our brains really operate like and see where we can relate. So let's have some fun together on the next one. See ya.